We're both
I'm
learning
learning.
together right now about the Zoom life.
Yo, that's what it's about right now. Still,
You always got to evolve with the new technology, man. Like I found that every time I'm resistant to a new app or a new technology, it always becomes prominent in the future. Like it becomes the next big thing.
except Snapchat, that fell off like fucking shit. Yo.
Honestly, it's
It was
weird.
like
It's so
Snapchat.
quiet on there.
No, it wasn't.
It's so quiet on Snapchat now.
Well, because the reality is, the biggest one of all of them, and the one that gets the most traction is actually Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook is really where, because young people, it's like to try to jump onto the new thing, but older people will tend to stay with what works. And let's be realistic. You like taking pictures? Facebook does that. You like making little videos? Facebook does that. You like going live? Facebook does that. Facebook has everything that everybody else wants. It's just that young people have this, we want to jump onto the next wave. Whereas the older generations are like, why if it's working? It doesn't make any sense.
Right. So they just if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Essentially, they're sticking with what they
That's
know.
true. That's the truth of the matter. Is if I was to go choose between Facebook Live and Instagram Live, I would go with Facebook Live 100 down. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, anytime you post something, I get way more. Well, this is me personally, but then again, I'm older. I don't know, because some young people don't even fuck with Facebook that heavy, right? But I get more feedback and more response from posts on Facebook than I do on Instagram.
Then Instagram. Wow, a lot of people might be surprised to hear that.
Way more, way more. I posted a picture of saying whether I get to turn my hair from afro to locks. Instagram, it gave 70 likes. Facebook had 470 comments.
Damn.
So see what I mean when I'm like, the difference is ridiculous.
What do you think that comes from, at least in your situation? Is it the comedy community being more active on Facebook?
It's just that people tend to look at Facebook more of as a way to communicate, where Instagram is more of a way to watch. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you don't really see people trying to, it's not the same. With Instagram, it's meant to look at my life, whereas Facebook is meant to communicate and be a part of my life.
Right. And it also has the family element, so it makes people a lot more interactive as well.
Way more, way more.
Yeah, man. And I actually saw you doing something crazy on Facebook. I saw you doing a Facebook Live at a comedy venue without an audience. Talk to me about that, man. Like, what's it been like not being on stage?
Well, I mean, I feel like first off, of course, I miss being on stage. That's the love and the passion.
Yeah.
I would love to be back on stage. I mean, the whole passion behind me doing stand-up comedy was because of that interaction, that ability to move a crowd. You know, like, some people will say that people are wizards and that spelling is a spell. And you can feel that when you're on stage because it's the words that I'm using. And it's like, I say these words and then the people react and they laugh, and I can control the higher they laugh, and I can bring it down and make it be where you're quiet. And it's like that power and that control is amazing. And nothing feels better than using that power to just make people laugh right down to their soul and forget their day. Like, you forget the healing power of laughter if you haven't laughed a good, deep laugh in a long time. Like when you get that belly laugh when all your bumhole tightens up because you're laughing so hard. And then when you're done, you feel like a weight's been lifted off of you. And the fact that, at my shows, that I'm known for being able to do that, to lift that weight off of people's heart, it feels good. And I miss that. Now, what I did the other night was a live performance with no crowd, no audience, but on a stage. I just wanted to give the crowd and the people something more effort than just being in my living room. Now, the lights fucked up, so it was filmed and I look pink. But you can see that the intention of trying to do something for the people, give you that feel of being at a show again was there. That was the scariest fucking thing I've ever done, bro. I swear to you, it felt as scary as the very first time I ever been on stage, because
Wow.
I had zero. I was not using any material that I've ever used at a show before. Okay,
Hmm.
so that means that these jokes were never tested. These jokes were raw. Uh, and with comedy, how you create a good joke is by taking it and then you putting it into comedy club after open mic, whatever, and constantly evolving and shaping that joke to make it perfect.
Yeah.
So I don't have that crowd now to fucking find out, yo, how is this sounding? How's this feeling? And I don't have an audience to bounce the energy off of, because you know the energy that I get from the crowd makes me more hype. Now you've
Right.
got nothing but just your own dirty thoughts on stage. And it was a completely different animal, and it scared me, bro. Like, I was scared. I was genuinely mad at myself for even doing it, because I was afraid of, yo, is anybody gonna like me? Is anybody gonna like this? And I'm glad I did it. You know, they say when you do something that you're afraid of, it makes you stronger. And I
Hmm.
feel that from doing that performance, the one thing I could look at is not only how I can do it better, but that I will do it again and it will be better. So I will definitely tell you guys that there will be more live performances from me, but the next ones that come out, they're going to make you feel like you're there with me. That's my goal. That when I perform and you guys watch these shows, you guys are like, damn, I could just reach out and touch. If I could figure out how to make it even interactive where they could say things and I could, you know, make it be better. Just make it be where we could, because with us being inside, I want to make it where we can still connect. And I
Yeah.
don't feel the connection uh, with a lot of the ways that it's being done right now. But I don't think anybody's figured it out, not even myself. I'm just going to try my pitch at it next time and see how you guys feel on the next one. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's insane, man. So, and it's true. I guess nobody's really figured it out completely because nobody was really prepared to figure it out. So I guess everybody's just sort of playing it by ear simultaneously, and whoever does it the best does it the best. But it's interesting that you said you were more nervous almost without the audience, even though there was a bunch of people watching on Facebook. So there technically was an audience, but without the live audience. Was that something you expected? Like, did you think you were just going to walk in and it would be a shoe in? Because you've played for some huge crowds.
Yo, here's the truest thing that you'll ever know about performing as a stand-up comedian. A big crowd is easy.
Hmm.
The bigger the crowd, the easier it is. If I walk out, there's 50,000 people in front of me watching to watch me perform. That's easy. If there's 4 people watching you, that's hard. The less people you take away, the more people you take away, and the less you have in that crowd, the harder of a show it is for you to work, because you have to find that balance in the energy to change from I'm telling a jokes to I'm having a conversation with people who don't know me. And you have to figure out that you just can't go on there and be like, hey, so my wife, da, 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 da. You know what I mean? They'd be like,
Yeah.
this guy's weird. What are you fucking doing? But if
Right.
you were to do that with 5,000 people, it's like, this is the greatest show ever. But when you have
Mhm.
5, you have to change your energy and shift to now you're not catering to the general population. Now you're catering to these 5 people, and you need to find the energy, the wave of these 5 people and make them laugh. So now when I'm walking out onto that stage and there's no people, I just have to be honest with myself. And that's the
Wow.
thing I was trying to really accomplish when I was on that stage, is that my laughter, if I laughed on stage, that it was a real laugh. If I
Mhm.
was angry about something, that it was real anger, because that's the only thing that I can uh uh be. I can't be fake. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
looks weird. And the one thing that I do like from everybody that did watch it, and thank you so much to everybody that did. I think I had 83 views live for the performance, and I think we're somewhere at 700 now. A day later, 2 days later,
That's
700.
awesome, man. I mean, a
And
lot of comedy shows can't get 83 people there in person.
you know what I'm saying? I was really happy about that, because this was all new grounds for me. And, you know, when I came off the stage to see my phone vibrating and a bunch of people texting me like, yo, it was good. I'm so proud of you. It was funny. You know what I'm saying? It felt good. And it made me realize that I was being selfish and being really a coward because I wasn't trying to figure out a way myself to connect to people when the people needed us most, which is now because they need someone to keep them to laugh. And that's our job, you know. And now I look at what I was saying before when I'm like, I'll never do it live and I'll never do that. Now that I've done it, I realize that I was just fucking scared. And I was scared because I never saw someone else succeed at it. But now that I've done it myself, I'm like, yo, I know how to succeed at this. I felt like how when a joke doesn't work on stage, but that it is a good joke. It's like I just didn't tell it right. And for all those who were watching live, just know that when it comes back, it'll be way better next time, be way more entertaining, and there will be more. And there'll be plenty of other things, too, that I'm going to be doing, too, to keep the people entertained while they're at home.
That's incredible, man. I love that. So that being said, Sterling, how do you think this is going to affect the landscape of comedy moving forward? Do you think that this is going to last even when clubs are open?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think because here's the thing. Until they get a cure or a vaccine, who is going to be comfortable being in a comedy club where you're supposed to be elbow to elbow, where you're supposed to be on top of each other, where you're supposed to make people go, ha, ha, ha. Who the fuck wants to be in that environment? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I see comedy clubs coming back. Yes, 100%. But will you be doing big numbers right off the bat? Maybe. Who knows? I mean, maybe people are so desperate to be out, they will do all of that shit. But from what I feel is that shit will be normal till January. And in the meantime, between time, comedy will have to evolve. It'll have to go from having the energy of the person in front of you to now knowing how to talk to millions of people who are not even in the same room as you.
Yeah.
And I think that the great comics will figure out this shift faster than the others. And then once the correct way, and it's like, ooh, I'm gonna do it like that. Once that gets figured out and everybody starts copying, it'll be the same again like how it was before. There's gonna be celebrities who draw bigger numbers. There's gonna be people who draw little numbers, you know? But the one thing that is good right now is that everybody is on the same playing field right now. And so I tell all comedians, any entertainers or comedians listening to this podcast, please, this is not a time for us to hold our heads and think, well, you know, that it's bad times. It's now time for us to create a platform that we can be seen on. Because the way the world was before, that was that way of making it. You had to be seen by an executive. You had to, you know, go into Hollywood, or you had to be in New York, or you had to do all that shit. Now, if you have the following, then you don't need any of them. You now have in a way that they now need you. Now they got to say to you, we'll pay you more than what you're making just so that they can fucking have you on their shit. This is our time. Yeah. Now, the reason why it just seems difficult is because it hasn't been figured out yet. But just like how me and you, in the first few seconds of looking at our Zoom recording, learning how to go side by side. Yeah. Now I just figured out how to do podcasts with people side by side, video recorded, and now I could post this on YouTube, have a video and audio. Just from this conversation alone, my thought process has to evolve. Yeah. Right? Now, if many people don't do the same, then they'll just be picking up behind everybody else who's already moved forward. So thank you for calling me on Zoom to do this podcast, because bet your sweet ass, the Comedy Reject Podcast, episode 1, which is already out on Spotify.
Yes.
parts 2 and 3 we'll definitely start having, if I have a guest, that is. Not always do I have guests. But if I have a guest, it'll be the way you've done it, because what I'm looking at right now on my phone looks beautiful, and I'm not just talking about my face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
No, man, it's tremendous. No, it's true. And speaking of the podcast, you just started your own podcast and it just dropped. So talk to me about the show. Tell people what the format is and sort of, I guess, what the inspiration is.
Yo, so I have my first podcast out. It's called The Comedy Reject. The Comedy Reject, it doesn't have a format. If you've ever had a conversation that with a person and it was just a dope time, a good time, and you laughed, and you, at the end of it, you were like, man, that was amazing. That's what it feels like every time you come in to The Comedy Reject. Because I let my guests, if I have them, talk about whatever's on their heart. You know what I mean? We go into it. We get into it deep. And I want to know, you know, questions about that person as well. And that person can get to know me as well. And you, the audience and the viewers, will feel connected on the fact of the topics that we talk about. You might find these topics interesting in your life. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I would love to have you on and ask you your opinion and your experiences growing up as a biracial child. You know what I'm saying? Like,
hell yeah.
That's an amazing thing to even like, yo, what is your story like? I know my story, but I don't know your story. I mean, like, everybody in this world has problems. Well, what were yours? You get what I'm saying? So it's like we begin there and then we just let the conversation flow. I don't plan out the conversations. I don't tell them what kind of questions I'm going to ask. We just fucking vibe. Yeah. And it is funny. Yes, it is a funny podcast because it's me. And I can't take shit serious for too long. So you bet your sweet ass with every few minutes that pass, I'm going to be saying something hilarious.
Of course.
But it's definitely a podcast that you should tune into and listen to just take your mind off of the bad in the world and enjoy a conversation with a good friend. Come sit, have a cup of coffee with me. Have a cup of Joe with me. Come.
That's right. Let's do it. Hey, I mean, we're all at home.
So that's the kind of the vibe of that podcast. And it's my first one. And as you know, when you started your podcast a while back, you grow, you develop, you evolve, you become better. So I just hope that everybody that listens does the same with me, that they take the time and opportunity to grow with me as my podcast matures, because what it is today, I hope it's not like 5 years from now, because that means I wasted 5 years of my time from not evolving and developing and becoming better, learning how to talk to. One thing with podcasts that I like so far is learning how to listen. I realize that, like I learning how to listen and learning how to draw better questions and better answers out of human beings. So it's been very interesting, and I'm enjoying it, man. I like podcasting, so I like being a guest, and I like hosting it now.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think it's a great format for you. I mean, it only makes sense, and even thinking about the live streams from home, I mean, for comedians, it does make sense because people pay to see them stand there and talk, and maybe they would even pay to see them stand there and talk when they're not there. I mean, people watch Netflix specials, and even though there's an audience in the video, there's no audience, you know, you're not in the room with the comic.
Exactly. See, you're thinking in the right way. All right.
That's the thing.
And all it is how do we visually capture the performance so that the audience at home receives it as if they were live. Once that's figured out, and I'm telling you, I'm saying it now, and as soon as it happens, watch how everybody reacts. Because you'll know what it is when everyone starts following that format. For example, with music, they found that these producers were going head-to-head online, playing using their tracks that they've made. So Teddy Riley went against Babyface.
Oh, wow.
And that generated 500,000 people watching live.
Wow.
And it was so much, it shut down Instagram.
That's insane. That must be the new record.
Yeah, they'd never had anything like that. Yeah. So now, all of a sudden, all the producers and artists start doing that now. And so with music, they figured out a way to make concerts and have attention drawn to them.
Yeah.
right? And you're gonna see more and more people following that trend in music. But in comedy, we haven't really solidified a format where people are like, yeah, we're all paying to go do that. Like if you want to watch a comedy show before, you would go down to a comedy club or a bar and you'd sit down and you'd watch the show,
Hmm.
right? With these videos and shit, it's gonna change how we do that now. Like for example, in a club, you knew it had to be dark, you knew it had to have good sound, you knew it had to have good lighting, you knew you had to keep people tight together and serve them drinks.
Yeah.
All that shit's gone. Now the atmosphere is whatever the fuck is in their house.
Yeah.
So what do you got to do in your space to make them feel like their house is now the comedy club?
Right.
So as soon
Right.
as people figure out, like that's the question, and as soon as that answer comes out, you'll know because you're gonna see a lot of comedians following that script. And all I'm trying to do right now is just to figure that script out so that I could be on the forefront when that time comes. Like people will be like, "Ooh, they're copying Sterling, not
Right.
Sterling is copying them."
Yeah, no,
So,
100%. It's about, again, like you said, being on the forefront and not resisting that evolution that's inevitable because we're in a new space now. Um,
mhm.
Speaking about being on the forefront, you're definitely synonymous with Canadian comedy, but definitely Edmonton comedy 100%. And I always love to ask people when they become synonymous with either a city or an area, sort of what led up to that. So like at what point did you start to feel that, if at all? Because I personally feel it. And I mean any comedy fan in the city knows Sterling Scott.
Well, that happened. Okay, so I'm born and raised in Scarborough, Ontario, and Scarborough is forever who raised me.
Hmm.
But why I identify, like I always say this, I say this publicly everywhere. I'm a Scarborough kid, but I'm an Edmonton comic.
Okay, yeah.
And that's because when I came to Edmonton is when I started comedy. I started it right here in Edmonton, and my perspective, my growth, the lessons I learned, the very roots of my comedy began right here in Edmonton. And the flower that grew out the ground, that's with Edmonton soil, Edmonton water. You know what I'm saying? I am an Edmonton comedian.
Yeah.
And that started the day I became a comedian. And I mean, when I say, I don't mean the first time I was on stage. I mean the day when my job title was no longer whatever day job I had.
Mm.
The day that my title on my taxes, the day when you anybody who is a full-time 100% comedian, you know what I'm talking about. That feeling when you know my entire income, is based on this thing called stand-up comedy. I, for a living, am a stand-up comedian. On that day, I realized that I'm thankful to Edmonton, not Scarborough where I'm from, Edmonton, for raising this comedian.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that probably kicked in around the 4-year mark. And around
Oh
the
wow.
4-year mark is when I'd say 2012, 2013, around that time is when I officially was like, I am an Edmonton comedian and I rep Edmonton around the world. I don't care where I've been, you know what I mean? Wherever I go, they go, where are you from? And I go, I'm from Edmonton.
Yeah.
And they're always shocked. They're like, where are you from? New York? No. LA? No. Canada. What?
Hmm.
You're from Toronto? No. Vancouver? No. Edmonton. And they're like, where the fuck is that?
Yeah. That's what I get too.
You know what I'm saying? But just because they don't know, it doesn't mean that we should be ashamed of it. The reason why they want to know where you're from, and look at all the great places they associate you with before you come to Edmonton, that means that what you represent, what they see in you, is just as valuable and as bright as all those other big cities. So don't be ashamed. Be proud. Hey,
Yeah.
I know you don't know where I'm from, but there's a lot more like me. And y'all need
Yeah.
to go fucking learn about Edmonton. And so that's why I have a lot of love for the city of Edmonton. My most of my fan base is here. The people that taught me how to do comedy, they're from here. You know, And the amount of times when I've had, dark times in comedy, it was here in Edmonton that it was my crowd that lifted me up. And
Yeah.
so I forever till the day I die will rep and always be an Edmonton comedian. No matter where else in the world I be, I will always be an Edmonton comedian.
I love that, man. I love that a lot because you definitely hold it down for the city. And like I say, I've had people like cutting my hair, and I mentioned, yeah, I work at a comedy club, and or I used to work at one. They're like, you know Sterling Scott? I'm like, yeah. Like, how do you know him? Did you cut his hair? Like fucking. No, I love it, dude. And I love to see it. And there's a couple other guys too, and I definitely enjoy it. In terms of moving forward with the stand, actually, instead of moving forward, I want to go back a little bit because we mentioned all the places that you've performed. We mentioned all the audiences you've been in front of. Do you have any like standout crazy moments along the road of comedy that and I'm sure you have a ton.
So many.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the crazy moments I've had on stage are my jokes on stage. One of the crazy ones is that anybody in Red Deer knows this story, and it's true. It was a crazy story. I was on stage on a Tuesday in a bar in Red Deer. And as I was performing on stage, this little old lady, and I mean for sure, she's in her late 70s to early 80s, walks up to the stage and just stands there. She's not moving. She's just standing there next to me by the stage. And 20 minutes into my set, she's still standing there. So I looked at her and I said, what do you want? And she goes, I never kissed a colored Negro. And the whole fucking crowd went silent. They were like, what the fuck just happened? And listening to what she said, I heard intent. I heard that in her mind, she wasn't being racist. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She's an 80-year-old woman. They called me way worse things around the dinner table at her house. But I'm listening to what she's saying to me. She stood there for 20 minutes, and the first words out of her mouth was, I never kissed a colored Negro. So I jumped off that stage, and I grabbed her by the back of her head, and I tongue-kissed this old bitch.
Oh.
Right? And I mean, I put it on her. You know what I'm saying? I rubbed my dick on her. Like, I put it on this old lady. And when I was done, her husband bought me shots.
Oh my God, her husband was there. That's the craziest part, even that her husband was there.
Yes. So that's a true story. That's a 100% true story. Anybody from Red Deer who's like laughing right now, listening at it, they're like, yep, this guy's not lying. That really happened. But that's what's crazy about comedy, that your words, unlike any other platform of entertainment, comedy could make, your intention with comedy is to make people laugh, and someone could watch the show and end up wanting to punch you in the face, or they could end up wanting to have sex with you, or they want to be your best friend, or it's such a weird, my intention was just to make you laugh, but you arise so many other fucking emotions out of these people, and it's always different for every person because your story relates to different people in different ways based on their experiences, and that never changes. It's like an infinite amount of responses that have happened that I've seen, and that's what makes comedy so beautiful, because it's never guaranteed to be the same. You can walk into do a show, I don't care how good you are, you can always bomb. Now, bombing will change, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you're going to get 0 laughs, but you know what I mean when it's like your best just wasn't as good as it was to the other nights, you know? And it's like that can happen on any occasion. And if anybody tells you that they don't bomb, that motherfucker is delusional and a lunatic, because you have to bomb in order to know how to. It's like saying every nugget I dig out the ground is 24 karat refined gold. No, you idiot. You got to go in there. Then you got to refine it. You know what I'm saying? You got to dust off the dirt. You got to make that shit mold before it becomes that brick. You know what I'm saying? So anybody telling you that they pull gold bricks out the ground, you know what I'm saying? They're pulling shit out their ass. That's all they do. That don't happen. You got to refine it. You know what I'm saying? That's why I was so scared when I did my first performance, because I didn't know if I was pulling fool's gold or gold nuggets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know, and I don't know because there's nobody to even look at what I'm holding in my hands to say if it's gold or fool's gold. All I had was what I believed gold was.
Your
And I
first
went
show
on stage
ever.
with that, and it was scary as fuck, like I said.
That was your first show ever, like ever doing stand up.
I've never done that before in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm gonna do it again in like mid to late May will probably be the next time I do it. And the next time I do it, it's gonna look fire. The next
And
time
this
I
is
do it,
the
it's gonna be
live
dope.
video
It's
stand up?
gonna be something that you wanna tune into on the next one. Because I'm gonna make it where people are like, yo, Sterling, when's the next show? I promise you guys, the next time I do this shit, y'all be like, when's the next show? Because it's gonna be hot. I'm telling you, in my head, I feel it. I have the fucking blueprint, and I'm getting everything I need. And the next time you see me performing on stage, y'all go love it.
Absolutely, man. That's a promise that I can guarantee is facts. One more thing I wanted to touch on was a really cool thing here in the city of Edmonton that, I mean, it's one of my favorite things in the city is the secret show that has popped up. Yeah, man. I'm curious. Tell me about the secret show. Like, for anybody who hasn't heard of it, what is it, first of all, and how did it get started?
Okay. The secret show is the only show in Alberta where it's a secret comedy show where the audience and the comics are allowed to smoke weed during the show. So comics can come on stage, smoke a weed. The crowd can be smoking weed. The whole fucking place gets gray. And that's what the secret show is. The secret show was started by me, Jim Kerr, and Will Hannigan. And we approached the people at the secret location.
Yeah.
We pitched them the idea, and there was some legal loopholes that we found in order to make it work.
Yeah.
And we started banging shows, and it quickly became, man, just without a doubt, the most relaxed, enjoyable show you could have been at, man. I feel like comedians could really go down there and explore material. A lot of the comedians in the city just came to hang out, which made me very happy because I always wanted to create a space where comedians would come together and be like, this is where we meet. This is where we hang out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I really pushed for that environment. I then, just before COVID-19 went crazy and started season 1 of The Walking Dead, I actually turned that responsibilities and the running of that room over to Jim Kerr and Will Hannigan, because as much as I love the room, I was moving to America.
Yeah.
And I had 2 television shows that I was on, one on Amazon Prime, one that was supposed to be on, I believe it was Showtime for doing stand-up. And both of them were supposed to be recorded in late March. So March 6th is when they started closing things down. And they, of course, messaged us and was like, yeah, we're show's canceled. All that stuff is gone. And so now that I'm back, who knows? I might even figure out how to do a weed show with the Zoom.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That's what I probably should do.
That's
Have it where
doable.
we all log in and we all bun weed. You know what? This is what I mean. You see, like how we evolve just in this conversation. Just in this conversation alone. Now I know when I get my studio, I'm doing a weed show. I'm saying it right now. I'm building a studio right now for performances. So when it's up, yes, other comedians and other entertainers can rent the space. But once it's up, it should be up late May. I'm going to start doing pot shows. I'm going to start doing fucking weed shows from home. Fuck it. That's what we do it.
Is this a remote studio you're talking about?
Yeah,
Nice. That's
it's a
crazy.
bedroom. I'm turning a bedroom into a fucking thing.
Hey,
Well, I mean,
how long
I
have you
did
been
apply
planning
for
it?
a grant. I applied for a grant for a studio space so that I could do these shows. Um, so we'll see. Because if I get the grant, then I'll have like a full-on studio space that
Mm.
I will put the show on, and I'll do that shit weekly, bro. I'll do that
Wow.
shit weekly. If I get my studio up and running, I'm bringing the secret show back. That's right. I'm calling up Jim Kerr. I'm calling up Will Hannigan. I'm reviving the gang. The secret
Yes.
show, Edmonton's #1 weed show, is coming fucking back. And you can thank your fucking man Cassius here because he just lit a fire under my ass. And now it's coming back. I'm telling you guys right now, by June, the first fucking weed show will be back.
This is an exclusive, Edmonton exclusive right
Yes.
here.
I'm saying it right now, 100%. The latest is by June because I gotta call the gang back together and we fucking running the secret show again. We're bringing it back. Thank you.
Yes. Jim Kerr, Will Hannigan. You better be watching this right now. Sterling, I fucking love it, man. Thank you so much for coming on, dude. This has been
Thank you.
incredible. Tell people where they can find you, where they can find the podcast, and all the details about your shows coming up.
You can find me on all platforms at Sterling's Jokes, and the podcast, The Comedy Reject, can be found on Spotify and all your other major platforms or whatever. So if you don't find it, go on to my Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook page. The links are always posted there. Like I said, episode 1 is already up. The new episode will be up and ready every Sunday. Every Sunday, there'll be a brand new episode. So make sure you guys tune in, grow with me, laugh with me, but most of all, be entertained by me.
Sterling Scott, thank you so much.